I've recently come to the end of a really busy work period, which of course is a blessing. But one of the things that I struggle with a lot is having that differentiation between working as a photographer and being a creative. Coming out the other side of a really busy period, it's really easy to kind of experience some sort of creative burnout, some sort of disconnect with your work, the things that you're doing and the things that maybe you want to be doing and don't have time for or haven't been allocating the time for. When you make a living from art, that kind of differentiation between work and hobby can be very difficult because there's such a crossover. I love what I do. I love the fact that I'm able to be a photographer full-time every day. But sometimes when you're working as a photographer, when you're doing that every day, you're not necessarily fulfilling your creative itch. You're just kind of creating for other people's projects, for other people's work. It's not always your ideas, it's not always the things you want to shoot. And so I think it's good to kind of have some sort of differentiation between this is work and this is hobby. So for some people that might be, you might be a wedding photographer during the week, but then, you know, in your own time, you're a street photographer. For me, a lot of the differentiation between hobby and work comes from the process that I engage in. So for a really rough example, most of my work is digital photography, and then most of my passion projects, personal work is shot on film. I started taking on paid photography clients and projects close to a decade ago now. I was making money and subsequently making a living from photography quite soon after I kind of entered the world of photography and started shooting. And because of that, a lot of what I was doing was learning on the job. It was, you know, kind of making things up as I went. I didn't have any knowledge or experience prior to taking on these jobs. I didn't study photography. I never had someone teach me how to use a camera. And subsequently, I think a lot of my technical knowledge was lacking because of that. So, you know, even today, if you talk to me about a new camera, I'm probably not going to know anything to do with the number of megapixels or what that even means. I'm more interested in kind of like usability and how things lend themselves to technique and style than I am interested in other, you know, things like resolution. But I think that's okay. I really believe that you don't have to be a technical photographer to be a good photographer. You know, if you have a vision, then it doesn't really matter if you're able to execute that vision. I think sometimes the vision is more important than knowing a camera inside out. That being said, I do think that sometimes having that idea in your head, knowing more about the technical side can help you bridge that gap. Over the years, I've learned more, obviously, through my job, through making this YouTube channel, about the more technical aspect, and a large part of learning about those technical skills I really do attribute to finding an interest in film photography. So I kind of grew interested in film photography circa 2018, 2019, when I started recognizing that a lot of photographers were shooting with cameras like the Mamiya RZ67, and I really liked the style of their work. So in 2019, I bought myself a beat up Mamiya RB67. If you want to know what happened next, that whole journey is documented on this channel, from like the day that I first shot with the Mamiya RB67 all the way up to kind of my film journey as such now is all on this channel. But a spoiler alert, it involved, you know, a lot of blank rolls, accidental multiple exposures, and a lot of really expensive mistakes. But you know, that is just part of learning any skill, especially with something like film photography that you can't obviously see as you're taking the photos. That trial and error becomes maybe a lot more pronounced. But thankfully, it's not been all bad. Film photography, the best way I can describe it is that it ignited a passion for photography and not just image making. I've always been someone that enjoys visuals, you know, that as a child manifested in drawing and illustration, more traditional art forms. I then went on and studied graphic design at degree level. It's always been in my blood to enjoy the visual arts, to enjoy image making, but I didn't really have much love or desire for the process. It was more about the outcome. I think film photography changed that for me though. Since learning about film photography, I've been so much more invested in the whole process, taking an image from, you know, conception, the idea in your head, to the final printed image, for example. It's absolutely broadened my horizons when it comes to the techniques that you can use within photography. You know, never would I have ever imagined that you would find me in the darkroom printing my own photos or doing anything remotely practical like that. That's just not me. If you knew me before I started with this, it's just not, I was never good at science. I was never good at kind of like the practical experiments and things like that. So to be so hands-on in the process now is something that I don't think I would have recognized within myself. And like I said, the nature of film photography, you know, trial and error is at the heart of it. You have to practice. And I think because of that, it in turn almost made me a better photographer, because I was having to put more work in to get to grips with the medium and the process, and in turn taking more photos, being more considerate about what I was taking because of the process, because of the cost, because of the limitations of film, if you will. I shoot a lot of medium format. I have to think a lot more about, you know, is my dark slide in? Have I got this exposure right? Because I've not got a meter built into this camera. It's not doing it for me. Is my composition looking good? Do I actually even want to spend £3 taking this photo? Is this photo something that I actually want to take a photo of? By shooting on film, I have, you know, increased how much I'm practicing, been more considerate about what it is I'm shooting, probably shot more personal work and more personal projects than I would have if I'd never kind of ventured into film photography. So when I think about my relationship with film photography now, I don't think that film photography made me a better photographer, but I do think that it allowed me the tools, or I discovered the tools needed to improve my photography and my relationship with the practice in a way that maybe wouldn't have happened if I had never decided to experiment with it. I do think there is this cliche of like, you know, if you can shoot on film, you're a better photographer. If you don't shoot film, you're not a proper photographer. I mean, there's, you know, you hear it, the internet is a terrible place for it. Like, you hear it all the time. And I think, you know, there are instances in my own life where I have experienced people with that mindset in real life as well. You know, I remember being like 19 and shooting a wedding, and one of the guests telling me that he used to do real photography, and of course what he meant by that was that he used to shoot film, that he would print in the darkroom, develop his own film, or whatever it was, you know, kind of naive to the fact that so did I, but that wasn't kind of the point. It was the point that there was this, and maybe is this, elitism around film photography, around, you know, you can't be a good photographer unless you shoot film. So I don't want to fall into that kind of narrative of suggesting that that's true, because I don't think it is. I think for me, it's just been such an instrumental part in expanding my practice, expanding my knowledge. I think it more comes down to, one of the best things you can do as a photographer or any kind of artist is to fall in love with the process of creating that art and not just the result. And for me, I found that process to be particularly enjoyable and particularly interesting when it came to film photography. But you know, for you, it might not be film photography, it might be lighting design or something like that, you know, any other aspect of kind of what it is you do. If you fall in love with kind of the process of it, I think you're always going to be able to find a hobby in whatever it is you do for work as a creative. So maybe if you are in a creative rut, if you have come off of, you know, a busy time as a photographer or a busy time with any other kind of creative discipline, because I think I am really talking about creativity here and that kind of burnout that comes with having a creative job. But if you are kind of coming towards that, a busy work period where things are starting to feel monotonous, then maybe encouraging processes related or not to your chosen discipline is what's going to kind of reignite that passion and that interest and make you, you know, fall in love with creating art again, I guess. But I'd love to know about your relationship with photography or your chosen kind of art discipline. What made you decide to take photos? Is it the process that you love? Are you just like obsessed with cameras? Do you know, is it more about the results? Is it more about trying to emulate a certain style? Is it more about capturing the world in the way that you want it to be, you know, projected? I think as a human, our relationship with creativity is one of the most interesting things that we have, because everybody engages in some form of creativity. But I guess this is just me talking, because in all truthfulness, in the name of being transparent, this quieter time for me is historically when I would put more energy into creating these videos. And I almost feel as though I need to kind of reclaim photography for myself now at this point. I need to get back into the studio and create work that I want to create, and, you know, try out film stocks just because I want to try them out. You know, I'm sitting down to make a video today and I'm thinking, how can there be nothing I want to talk about? How is it that I've just done 3 months of, you know, back-to-back shooting and none of it is making me want to talk to you guys about it? And I think for me, that just tells me that I've not been involved enough in the process and treating it as a hobby enough in the last couple of months. So yeah, coming towards the end of the year now, that is going to be my my Q4 resolution. I guess I know we're still in Q3, but my Q4 resolution is to get back into shooting for myself and shooting because I really love doing what I do and I don't want to grow bored of it. So this was a lot of words. It was a lot of just kind of off the top of my head thoughts on creativity and photography and all of that. So if you are still with me, then thank you. I know it's a lot, and probably when I come to editing this, I'll realize that most of what I just said did not make much sense, but hopefully it resonates with someone. I've got a few shoots coming up that I'm really excited about shooting and filming and bringing to this channel. So hopefully there will be some more kind of behind the scenes videos, more kind of creative videos coming to the channel in the next few weeks or next few months, when I get a chance to kind of actually get them filmed and edited. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.